particular thanks to four people. The first collectively would be the three fine women who run the Erie County Department of Public Services and the outreach through University Express. So thank you, Alicia, and also to Kitty and to Katie. I'd also like to thank Reed Taylor, who may not be on, but who is a resident of Canterbury Woods. Reed Taylor brought Jeanette's and my attention to a possibility of traveling to the most beautiful cities of contemporary Japan. Second, shout out to Tom Berkman, who lives in Grand Island, who is a professor, retired professor from UB, who teaches Japanese history and from whom I gained a great deal. And then thirdly, my late wife, Jeanette Ludwig. You will see her in several of the pictures. Most important for this presentation is that she was a practicing Zen Buddhist, and much of the presentation will show us famous Buddha shrines. So it's a land of contrast because I suspect some of you drive good four-wheel drive Subarus or maybe Toyotas or Mazdas or like Jeanette and I did, Hondas. So konnichiwa, good morning, or you can say it very simply in Japanese, Ohio. So Ohio, everybody. Let's go to the next slide and we'll proceed through them pretty rapidly. And we are going to Kyoto. But one of the things that you see regularly throughout, if you will, traditional Japan are gates of this sort. These traditionally lead to Shinto shrines. Shinto can be described in a capsule as a folk religion inherited from many centuries, which has a sense of the unity of humanity with all of its surroundings. Let's move to the next. And this will show you a picture of traditional canal in Kyoto area. And we'll be showing those little floating things because they come from the annual Doll Festival, which is held in early March. Next, please. Next, please. There we go. Now we're outside. Go back one, please. We're outside a Buddhist monastery, and there are prayers that have been given in the past. That's my wife, Jeanette, taking a look at them. We could not read Japanese, unfortunately, nor Chinese, and we'll see a number of Japanese and Chinese inscriptions coming up. Let's go to the next slide. And what we see here is something that maybe a few of you have tried. It's sake, S-A-K-E, which is a very powerful, maybe brandy type of drink, which comes from rice. A couple of sips of that and you can feel very happy indeed. Don't take more sips. You don't want to change your mood, even on a Monday morning. Next, please. So here we have a Buddhist monk standing at the entrance to one of the temple. Note his long skirt, long sleeves, and the symbol of the chrysanthemum, which is in the center. This is a way to define the current dynasty in Japan. And indeed, the Japanese trace their ancestry for their emperor back more than 2,000 years. It claims to be the oldest empire in the world, and of course, one of the few that still has an emperor. I hasten to add, everyone, that the emperor rules constitutionally. He has no powers. Next, please. Next, please. And there we are just outside looking in. And here are more prayers that have been put in as we enter this particular shrine. Next, please. And here we have two gentlemen. It's possible that they are in the same business, but they are worshiping or giving respect to a person who has died. And those are that person's ashes, as I recall. Next, please. And here we have offerings that have been provided on the entrance to the shrine itself. Fresh fruits, for example, other things. These are brought by pilgrims coming to the site, and we'll see more pilgrims in a moment. Next, please. And here we're back to this doll festival or girl festival. I think this is one of my favorite pictures, and as Alicia mentioned, thank you, Elisa, These are all publicly available through the University at Buffalo's digital library. Next, please. So what's the purpose of the celebration? Well, it's an opportunity to dress up if you're a young woman. They are wearing kimono. Kimono is a word for a particular type of clothing used in traditional Japan. And by traditional Japan, I mean pre-1868, because that is a most important date in Japanese history. That is when its major so-called Meiji Restoration began. Next, please. And here we can see, an emperor pretend and an empress pretend preparing for viewing this particular ceremony. Again, the Japanese pay a great deal of homage, respect, toward their tradition. This is one example of it. Next, please. And how do you like that for getting ready, for a big occasion? Her face has been plastered with a very white and wearing multicolored kimono. And of course, plenty of photographers and admirers around on all sides. Next, please. All these pictures were taken, by the way, in March the year, so it was pretty chilly. Well, here's the emperor get ready, standing by the water to receive these little offerings that are coming on Japan's Day of the Girl. Next, please. There's our next slide, and on this we can see, please change the slide, Alyssa.
Oh, sorry.
That's okay. Here we have attendants coming down, ready to place the initial figures into the very slow moving stream. Next, please. And there it's time for the children to do so. So here they are, and you can see of all ages, including the real toddlers who are a little uncertain about the water, but they are placing these small floating remembrances into the river itself. Next, please. This is all in Kyoto, and there's a close-up of some. Yes, they're printed, but they're just so beautiful as they float slowly down the stream. Next, please. Now let's move into some of the long-standing arts and crafts. These women are playing samisens. The samisen basically means three. So there are three strings on those very elaborate instruments that you see. But, the combination of harmonies is fascinating. It's done in what's called a diatonic scale, very different from our Western scale. Check it out sometime if you have interest. Next, please. And there we have in the background, a little hard to see, but that is a figure of a traditional warrior. But I think more important is here you have a young child learning the appropriate position that one should be in when praying at a Buddhist monastery or shrine. Next, please. This is outside Kyoto. Here is a large-sized bell, which is tolled regularly at times of service, and the inscriptions above commemorate major historic events and individuals at this particular Torii shrine. Next, please. And here we have messages, again, posted outside this shrine, wishing good luck to individuals, wishing Godspeed to those who have left the earth, and other messages of that sort. Next, please. Okay, before going into a temple, you wash yourself. And to do so, you use one of these dippers to have the water coming directly from that dragon's mouth. Why a dragon? Well, we think of dragons as being fierce and terrible, but in East Asia, dragons are respected as signs of power. If a person is born at a time when the dragon is auspicious, that is very, very significant indeed. That good luck will attend that person. Next, please. In terms of the chat question that just came in, the percentage is interesting. I did not check that before this class, But we'll mention that there are very few Christians or Jews or even Muslims in Japan. Most adherents will go to a Christian ceremony for a marriage, which is usually performed civilly. They will worship at both Buddhist and Shinto shrines. It depends on the type of the occasion. Usually in terms of death, is definitely at the Buddhist shrine. Next, please. This particular line is guarding the entrance, and there you can see what is coming. The Kizumizudera, yeah, I know, I had to practice this word, Kizumizudera Shrine outside Kyoto. It's an early March when Jeanette and I took this trip, and you can see it in the weather. And coming up in about 5 to 10 slides is the only slide in this whole 140 that I took off the web. So these are mine. Next, please. Let's move into the shrine. And of course, you have to have a shop at the beginning and at the end in case you wanted to get some of the posted prayers, which you can see hanging up above, or other mementos. Next, please. So as the next slide shows, we have commemorative figures outside. That's a hotei, H-O-T-E-I. It may look a little menacing to you, but no, this is for welcoming, again, at the entrance to this Buddha shrine, Kizumizudera. Next, please. And then we go to the shrine itself. People are looking at some of the inscriptions, and you can see some of the little aprons, if you will, at the left. These jizo are very important in Buddhism, and unfortunately, I don't have the time to explain the position they have in Japanese society. Next, please. More examples of offerings that have been given outside the shrine. Next, please. And within it itself, you will find monks who will inscribe pieces in fine Japanese or even Chinese calligraphy with which you can honor a particular person. I don't know the percentage of monks, again, going back to the previous question, but they do play a guardian role at the shrines that you find, especially in cities as linked to the past as Kyoto is. I should point out that Kyoto was the capital of Japan from roughly the end of the Muromachi period. If Professor Berkman were here, he would correct me, to 1868, when the power of the emperor was started to be curtailed, and when the capital was moved from Kyoto to Tokyo. Next, please. And in this next slide, we see the footsteps of the Buddha. This is very important in Buddhist belief. Buddha set foot in many places around the world. And if you should see something that looks like this, you are in the presence of or very close to a Buddhist shrine. We have seen many of these throughout East Asia, South Asia, although we did not see any in our trips to Latin America. Next, please. And in this, you can see again more of these hanging prayers. Next, please. And we'll move on into the Kizumizudera, along with lots of other people who have come from various parts of Japan. This is something that is really hoped for by people as they age. It's not quite as significant as making the so-called Hajj in Islam, which I'm sure other speakers in University Express can enlighten you on. Next, please. You can be of all ages, but sometimes the steps are big, and as you can see by her hat as well, the weather can be inclement. The time to visit Japan, if at all possible, though there are throngs and throngs and throngs, is when the cherry blossoms are in bloom. And the opportunity to look at these cherry blossoms, starting from the very southernmost island of Kyushu and proceeding up to the north, through Honshu and up to Hokkaido. That's something that takes a couple of weeks, and there are people who will spend that time. Next, please. So this is the one downloaded slide. As you can see, Kizumizudera is a huge construction. And I should add a few things. It was built without nails, and it is so designed that it's relatively earthquake proof. It is surrounded by beautiful plantings, again, as you can see in this downloaded slide. Next, please. Well, here come the pilgrims going back, and we'll move on and see other sites within Kizumizu-dera. Next, please. Entranceway, again, very elaborate. This is a sign of power. But look in the background, especially you can see it at the right. That's the city of Kyoto. It was the only major city in Japan that, to my knowledge, was not bombed. It was not bombed because a wise Air Force general was aware of the symbolic significance and the incredible beauty of this city. Most Japanese cities that were destroyed in the war have been rebuilt in what I'm tempted to say is a rather helter-skelter fashion. That's why we see basically few pictures of contemporary Japan in this slide presentation. Next, please. Now, who's that person? What is he doing or she doing? Well, you can't tell. You can't see a face. This monk is begging, and you will see persons of this sort just standing totally quietly. It's not like the Christmas season when you find the volunteers and employees of the Salvation Army out ringing their bells, outside the Wegmans or wherever you may shop. No, these are silent persons accepting whatever is given, and that is how they subsist. Next, please. And on we go to see those hanging balls. They, I beg your pardon, those amulets, that rosary, if you will, of a giant size. One of the things I have as a memento of my late wife is her own Buddhist, rosary like this. And I have it, in right next to our bed. Next, please. There she is. Okay, that's Jeanette, and she is standing by a very elaborate flag to her left. You'll see it right in the center of the picture. That is the international symbol or flag for Buddhists. It was developed by an American, I believe, back in the 1880s or so. Multicolored, very uplifting, and it's just nice to see that again. Next, please. And on we go to fans. Now, why show fans? Well, I mentioned the ideal time to visit Japan is during cherry blossom viewing from April to mid-May, or perhaps a little longer. But Japan is exceedingly hot and humid in the summer. It's like going to, let's say, Savannah, Georgia, parts of Japan with high humidity and warmth. So that's why the fans are available, and they are really beautifully printed. Next, please. And on we go to, of course, food. And this gentleman here is vending the food not only, but more important, he will show you or have particular signs. I regret to say I've forgotten how to translate that Japanese that's shown there, and it's slightly difficult because, in fact, this image is reversed. It should be flipped totally, so the Japanese script would be correct. Next, please. And here we have, once again, preparation or vending of these scrolls, which can be inscribed as a way that persons could truly enjoy. Next, please. Well, this, as you can guess, was outside the shrine itself. But if you've seen my other pictures dealing with Vietnam, and we'll continue that another time, or parts of Southeast Asia and the Gulf, you will see other McDonald's signs with their particular menus displayed. So easy to understand, right, everybody? Okay, let's go on and forfeit the McNuggets and see what instead is the public lounge, displayed with a sense of welcome. So the inscription that you see there is an inscription of, come on in effect. This is a friendly place. Next, please. And from that public lounge, we're going to go into the city of Kyoto now. This is an area of the city that looks much as it would have in the late 18th or early 19th century. It's called Teapot Lane. And you can see plenty of folks walking along in it that look in contemporary dress. Well, that was part of the true transformation of Japan in 1868 and thereafter. Western dress was adopted, but you will also see traditional dress in the next slide, if we could have it, please, of traditional dress. So on the next slide, Kitty, please. Thank you. Sorry, let's get the big one. It says, that's my little note to myself, which is not supposed to be showing, but you can see it's a pedestrian-only street in old Kyoto and how it attracts, many visitors. Let's get back to the regular slide without the explanation at the side. Okay. Can we just get one slide at a time, please?
I'm so sorry. My computer shut down in the middle of your last talk on the last slide. So if you can just bear with me for 1 second. We're having some technical issues here in the Rath building. So please bear with me. Can you hear me, Claude?
Yes, I can hear you, and I urge
Okay.
everyone to pay their taxes to support the fine services of Erie County so they can upgrade the computer system too.
Oh my goodness, I'm so sorry. I'm gonna stop sharing.
Okay, while you're doing that, I will just mention that on the right-hand side, on the small slide, you can see a young woman who's been all dressed up in kimono in the traditional style. Teapot Lane was the real fashion center for Kyoto, and certain parts of it, I think there may have been prostitution, but we'll hang on for a second. I will otherwise not mention that old trade. We're getting advice coming from other people in the Department of Senior Services as how to correct this. I'm sure everything will be taken care of momentarily. So while we're doing this, I can say a few words about Japan itself. It's a mountainous country about the size of California, if I recall correctly. It has about 109 million people or so. It has one of the oldest age profiles in the world. The birth rate is exceedingly low. Japanese population has not been reproducing to replacement levels. To maintain the vigorous Japanese economy, which is the third largest in the world, there are occasional discussions of allowing immigrants to come and to work in the factories. This has run into a very strong sense of Japanese identity. It is not easy to get permission for doing so. Question from Susie that came in, if I pronounce her name correctly. What about the hats? Yes, they do. But there's a great attempt not to make them exactly the same as those of the beggars, I believe. I'm sorry, I don't have Jeanette on my side. Well, here we are. It looks like the picture is restored. You can see fine Japanese glazed pottery. Let's move to the next, please. And on this slide, we will see on the next, please. We're getting there, folks. Anyway, while the county government is at a temporary standstill, let me say that Japan's alterations in 1868 included not only Western dress, but they changed the way in which Japanese characters are written and books published. Because prior to the so-called Meiji Restoration, M-E-I-J-I, that's an important thing for you to learn. So the Meiji
Claude, can I interrupt everyone? I am so very sorry. I have Katie here with me, and she's going to try to fix the screen really quick. So if you could bear with us just for 1 second so we can get. Now I'm completely froze, Katie.
Do you want to move on as a panelist, and that way we're not going to use it?
Kitty, my co worker is going to jump on and try to take over. And her computer has not been having the issues this morning. My apologies, everyone.
Thank you, Lisa, very much for what you've been doing so far. It's been great being with you for the last half hour.
You too, Claude. Thanks for your understanding. Okay, there we go. That might be it. As long as we can share and move the screen forward.
I see that the Amherst Senior Citizen Center is one of those
I'll see if I
participating.
can-
We shout out to the center, which hosted me in person many
I,
times indeed. Looks like we're getting back to the big best question. If we go back 3 slides, please, Kitty. Katie. Can we go back a couple now? We're going forward at a huge speed. I don't want to go back. Oh my God, we're still advancing for, well, let's go back some more. Go back at least 2 more. No, you're advancing it rather than retreating as is necessary.
Is that going back, Claude?
Yes. Oh yeah, you've been going back for about 22 slides so far.
It's going the way you want it to
Going
go.
the wrong direction. I want to, this is showing everything in the whole show, and I'd like to comment on them. We should be at a slide about 55 now.
Yeah. I am gonna let Kitty just bear because I don't have it. The controls aren't working on my computer.
Okay. At any rate, if there are other seniors, citizen centers tuned in, I want to give special thanks to Baptist Manor, which was one place where I frequently went in person. I've also been down to Springfield and to Orchard Park, and let's see, to Cheektowaga, and in the Tonawondas. So it's really, I miss you guys. I lived in Buffalo from 1964 to 2020. Why did I leave? Well, I retired from my job, moved to the Boston area where 5 of my 7 grandchildren live. So it's understandable when you reach a certain age and your social circle significantly diminishes that I would be relocating. So I'm very happy in my new place, which is called LaSalle Village. It's a spot that is directly on a university campus. So, hi, Katie.
Hi, so sorry we're having trouble. Okay, so what slide do you want us to be on?
I'm sorry, were you speaking to me? I couldn't hear you that well.
Yeah. Sorry, what slide do you want us to be on?
Try going back to 50 to 55, or somewhere in that range.
All right, so am I close to it? Because we're not seeing what slide number we're on.
Well, I can't see it either, but all I know is that you have a long way to go going backwards because we went forward at least 25.
Aha, okay, so how about this one?
Well, we can pick up there, although I'd really like to show the preceding slides if it's all possible.
Well, so that was slide 56.
All right, let's go back to 20. Let's go back to 40.
Okay.
And I'll speed up the presentation so that we will be able to finish it all today and also have time for discussion.
Okay, all right, so slide 40 is this one. I'm just gonna put that up. Give me 1 second to make sure you guys are seeing the right thing.
It'll be the right thing because I'll always have something to say. Okay,
you're the
here we
best
are with the
one.
Buddhist flag. Let's move forward.
Okay, all right.
And okay, next.
Okay, next, you got it. Thank you, everyone.
All right, here are the fans. Remember that because the heat and humidity. Next, please. Okay, he's selling things. Next, please. We've got about a couple more vendors and then we'll get out of the thing. Next, please. Are we changing hosts here? Somebody push the advance button. Thank you. Next, we'll, for McDonald's, we've done. Next. Oh, and remember the public lounge, I'm supporting, both sides here. You go to one for tea and the other for your Big Mac. Next, please. All right, now we're on Teapot Lane, and this is where we left off before. So let's take a look at some of the people who are on Teapot Lane. Next, please. Well, you have, of course, I'm sorry to say, I should have mentioned the fact that here is a street sign saying here is a temple on the entrance to Teapot Lane. Next, please. And shops, of course, on Teapot Lane, which is a major tourist attraction in, again, the loveliest major city in all of Japan. It's in the south. Next, please. All right, here's what we wanted. Notice the young woman who's dressed up in early 19th century style, high fashion at that point, but, terribly hot and takes a long time to put on. Next, please. All right, signs that are selling things of interest to tourists. I have no idea what they are. I regret to say. If anyone reads Chinese or sorry, and Japanese, please let me know. Next, please. Okay, let's keep on going through this Teapot Lane. Next, please. Here's an entrance to a temple, and here's a shrine. The importance of shrines is incredible, and we showed some a couple of weeks ago for Southeast Asia. Next, please. Shrines are important for families. Here is a gigantic bronze statue that dates from about 785. Imagine that, 785. That's my math is not quite up to it, but I would say it's about 1,500 years or 1,485 or something. Figure it out, folks. Next, please. On we go. Jeanette is admiring the entrance to a very important shrine, which has the most significant visited rock garden in the whole world. We'll get a couple of pictures starting now. Next, please. So here's the background of the entrance itself. Next, please. It's figure of the Buddha. An overview that I did shoot. And in the top middle, you can perhaps barely see something that's gray. Well, that's the famous rock garden. Let's go down and take a look at it. Next, please. Oh, I forgot. Oh my God, this is the Nijo Palace. This is a fortification, Nijo. Again, this is original construction dealing from a period of warfare before Japan was fully unified, which came in the 17th century. Next, please. And let's skip that because it's not very beautiful and I forgot what it was. All right, here are some figures, life-size figures, not real people, who are praying. And again, this is part of the Nijon Palace. Next, please. Again, beautiful shoji screens that have been painted. This is split bamboo on which these works of art can be found. Next, please. The halls that open all the way through in this imperial palace. This is the imperial palace now, where you finally go through these sliding doors until you reach the throne of the emperor. We were not shown that, but this will give you an idea of scale. This is about the second or third, maybe even fourth room through which we've come, the sign of majesty. Next, please. All right, now we're into the calm, tranquil part of that monastery, or excuse me, shrine on which we looked down earlier. Let's move into it. Next, please. As we see it, we'll get, a shrine inside. Next, please. Again, of recollection. And here is the famous rock garden. 19 stones in it, as I recall, and it is impossible to see all of them at one time. So I'm going to leave you with two puzzles as we go quickly through the next several slides. How do you rake a garden like that without leaving footprints? And then secondly, how do you contemplate when you are there? There's my wife, Jeanette, contemplating, thinking about big issues. This was in the year 2000, just a couple of months before the cataclysmic events of September 11th. Next, please. There you go. All right. Again, how are you going to get out of that rock garden? Next, please, without leaving a footprint. The shrines all around you, just reminding you of your family and of loved ones. Next, please. Here we have a large cooking pot and a ceremonial stove, but look at the background of the screen. Japanese screens are traditionally have, I'm looking at one in my living room next door, 3 panels, and they are just exquisitely done of scenes stylized like that. Next, please. This is a slowly dripping water to induce a sense of peace, tranquility, and next, please, as we move into the shrine itself and see again this elaborate rock garden. This is a very different aesthetic or style of life than we are used to in the West, but get in the mood. If you ever have a chance to visit something of this sort, and just take time to think. Next, please. And here we have again a small Buddha with an inscription, which I will not translate. Next, please. We'll move on and again see more rocks. Again, wow, that is so impressive. Hey, next, please. Try that. Notice the different colors of the rocks, and just to maintain these is a huge job. But again, you don't see others except people who are there to refresh themselves spiritually and physically. Next, please. This is a garden of recollections. Again, the special aprons, if you will, that can be used on cemeteries to commemorate those who have passed from the scene. Next, please. And more examples of what you can acquire. These are symbolic, for lives that have been lost and for other purposes. Next, please. Red is a sign of celebration, I should have added in the last slide. White is a sign of mourning. They don't wear black for mourning, they wear white. More rock garden. Next, please. And a distant view of Kyoto. Kyoto is situated there because it has good feng shui. I'm sure you know that term. Feng shui is an indication that the winds are favorable, that there's not volcanic damage, that you have a valley at the top of which you can locate a monastery. And that's where the Kizumizudera temple is located, as well as a host of monasteries nearby. But that's the modern city of Kyoto in the background. Next, please. Now let's get a little more peace and tranquility. So as we wind down in the slide show, we'll get more and more of the bucolic scenes. Next, please. And here we have an example of what it's like in a quiet cemetery. There are living things. It's like forest lawn. Okay, next, please. And we can buy kimono if desired. I'm sorry about the sign again being reversed. We were there. It says 2001. That's correct. It was the year coming, which was very important. Next, please. Some cherry blossoms were in bloom. We are now close to Hiroshima. And we will have a couple of pictures of Hiroshima, but here we are. Cherry blossoms have started. This is March. Next, please. Really early. How's that for peace and tranquility? that bridge, that slow moving water, that rock, those beautifully placed rocks to get down to the very edge. Next, please. Well, of course, modern Japan, remember, it's a land of contrast, has things that you may really want. Like, well, it's Hygeia, if I could read my unfortunately flipped slide. So let's move on to the next one because I can't read it for you. Next, please. And on this next slide, we will, I hope, see some example of, yes, sweat is the name of a very popular drink. But in the vending machines, it's not only cold things like Coke or ginger ale or just plain water, but Japanese vending machines also have drinks that are hot. Let's suppose it's a cold, rainy day and you want some tea, but you're in a hurry. You can get it from the Pocari Sweat. Next, please. All right, outside a restaurant. Here are models, a little hard to see, but instead of reading a menu, you can get an idea that you want number 7 or number 14. Who says it's only Chinese restaurants that have numbers? What I love here are the models. Next, please. This is about the noisiest indoors that I've ever visited outside of some ancient factories. These gentlemen are playing the pachinko. This is a pachinko gallery. It is highly masculinized. It's who knows? It's just a game, which is, I think, I don't know anything about, and maybe at 83 I could learn it. Next, please. All right, the deer in this park are very much domesticated. You can offer them food, approved food. It's like being at the petting zoo there in Buffalo, the wonderful zoo that we've had so nicely redone. Next, please. All right. Again, this huge image of Buddha is more than 1,000 years old. And imagine maintaining that in a country that only 1/7 is habitable, because the other 83% or so is taken up by mountains. Again, this is a country that is very difficult to live in many respects, because of earthquakes, because of the limited space, because of the climate. So that the Japanese have built such an extraordinary civilization with such major industrialization, you have to hand it to them. Next, please. Let's move on. This is an example of a temple that houses that Buddha that we just saw. Next, please. And now we're in Hiroshima, the city destroyed almost totally by the first of our 2 nuclear bombs that we dropped. School children will wear uniforms. You can see they're in black. It's not a sign of mourning. Again, it's a sign of here's, we are at school, and it's no pants for the girls. No, sir. Next, please. I told you we'd be heavy on Buddhist symbols, but this is an entrance to one of the shrines that we saw in Hiroshima. Next, please. This is a cemetery. It's late in the afternoon. The deer are wandering around, but these are memorials to families inscribed in centuries past. Many of them covered, as you can see, with moss that's growing. Next, please. Okay, the fast train, the Shinkansen, it's called. Here's one arriving. There are little marks, and you can see where those folks are standing, and a door will open exactly there. You want to talk about precision high-speed rail? Go to Japan, or to France, or to Germany, or to places other than the developed world, other than in the United States, and you will find excellent train systems. Personal peeve. Next, please. Okay, we're feeding more deer. You can see they really are congregated. Those on the other side of the wall are getting interested in Jeanette's attention. Next, please. And there in this particular park, you can see that torii, T-O-R-I-I, in the distance. A place, for contemplation, for thinking about what life is like. Beautiful, beautiful, absolutely beautiful. Next, please. And I think, although we have some slides to conclude with, let me ask if there are questions at this point. Otherwise, I will, go through to the end. Any questions right now? Don't see in the chat box. So let's move on from this happy couple back, 22 years ago, and take a look at what else we have in contemporary Japan. The little hanging things on the trees, which still have yet to come into blossom in front of this wonderful pagoda. Notice how many stories it has. Again, the Japanese have worked on planning it so that the eaves, as you can see, are swept up. That helps with drainage. It also constructed so that it is relatively earthquake proof. Amazing construction. Next, please. If we could have the next slide. Okay, inside this monastery, we have people who are visiting. No, they're not nuns. I'm sorry. Let's keep on going. Next, please. And inside this monastery, this shrine itself, again, ways of peace, where you have the slow rippling water and the traditional bridge that leads out, toward the Sea of Japan. Next, please. A symbol of power and majesty inside this shrine. Next, please. How's that? Doesn't that make you feel good? This trip I took in March of 2000, so thank you for that question. That's why things look a little gloomy and rainy, as was the case for much of it. Next, please. And there you see that multiple-story pagoda in the background with these symbolic lanterns, and again, the flowing stream south of Hiroshima. Next, please. And you've seen the deer and you've seen Jeanette. I wish she were here to be able to narrate this. Next, please. Next, please. And you know what about rock gardens at this place, so let's move on to the next. All right, we are now in early March going a mountain. This is the funicular to Koyasan, to a monastery. And I think we'll be finishing up with a little bit of that monastery. Let's see what we've got. Next, please. Here we are going up in the train. Not many passengers. If you have good passenger service for rail, it does help to have generous government subsidies. The U.S. does not provide to the extent that other developed countries do, and it shows. Next, please. Next, please. Early March of 2000, ma'am. And here you see an example of what happened, in post-war planning. In brief, there wasn't any. I'm sorry to say that there are many cities in East Asia that I have visited, in China, Taiwan, Japan, Vietnam, and so forth, that have scenes like this, wires strung all over the place and just not much of a street view. Next, please. Peace and quiet. And that is a castle dating from the medieval period. Again, major defensive site and intended to shock and awe, if you will, with its majesty. Next, please. This is outside the Peace Shrine, which is a place that is an internationally respected spot. Let's move to the next slide. Of course, you can buy fashion along the way, but just notice the way that these are displayed. Not so you could just pick them up easily, but shown for their beauty along with a centerpiece of flowers. Next, please. This is a place of reverence, because there was where the nuclear bomb exploded. That building in the background is still standing, just while everything around it for a radius of over a mile was almost instantaneously destroyed. What is it? That's the former Chamber of Commerce for Hiroshima, built of reinforced concrete, earthquake-proof, and, as you can see, relatively bomb-proof. But it stands at one end of this particular peace park. It is a symbol of the destruction that war brings about, including, of course, what's going on in Ukraine right now. Next, please. You can see the modern buildings of Hiroshima in the background. Next, please. And of course, we're getting ready for something to eat. Here we have one of the small restaurants. This woman is trying to see if she's holding tongs to serve whatever you may wish. Again, with the stress on cleanliness in Japanese society, you will see tongs or special slippers, as we'll show in a couple of slides. Next, please. Inside, a monastery here are Shingon monks. We're back up at the top of Koyasan Mountain. They are doing their kinhin, which is the Japanese word for walking meditation. Next, please. There we have some closer view of these monks. They're clad in yellow. Again, various orders of Buddhism have different colors, usually festive in shades of yellow, orange. Next, please. Well, you all had futons. Well, if you were living in this monastery, as we did for a couple of days, you lie down on the floor, and that is your duvet, your warm cover. And next, please, we'll get an idea of what it's like when you have tea. Well, you'll settle down on your futon. No chairs, folks, no tables. This is a monastery. No nice permanent walls, but instead those sliding shoji screens. And I apologize for showing a little bit more of my flesh that might be appropriate, but after all, we're in a monastery. Next, please. There's Jeanette by one of the shrines, with her cup of tea, just, being very respectful. Next, please. And at a distance, there she is with a display of things that were presumably available for purchase outside the monastery. Again, we're atop a mountain. Next, please. And here's the entrance to the bathroom. Notice those green slippers. You wear special things, in the bath, and that in the center is a squat toilet. Okay, I think I need not explain that. Next, please. And another picture, in the bathroom for a bath, for cleaning yourself, the ladle to pour hot water over you. And again, just a beautiful sort of lattice work in that window. Reminds me a bit of the Darwin Martin house on Parkside. So one of the great sights of Buffalo itself. We're getting close to 11:30. Let me ask you, Katie, how much further do we have in slides? Because I'd be content to stop here and take questions in the time we have, if you wish. So over to you, Erie County.
Yes, thank you. Hi, Claude. It's Elise. I'm back. And thank you, everyone, so much for your patience with our tech troubles. Thank goodness Katie was here. Saved the day again. We're on slide 124 of 141, Claude. So
I will go through the last one very quickly if you would like.
Okay. Sounds
All right,
good.
let's go. Ready for the next. Ready for the next. Okay, I think you got the theme, rock gardens. Well, what's going on inside that hall? It is about 6 o'clock in the morning and it is snowy. So inside this temple, let's move on. Jeanette is with the other members of the Buddhism, and I'm outside in the snow, with my feet in the snow, with open sandals. I froze. There's Jeanette with a Swiss monk. They are reading the Japanese inscriptions and chanting Buddhist slide. The Buddhist group in Buffalo met in the basement of a Delaware Avenue church, and the Sangha or group was very grateful to that church, Westminster Presbyterian, for hosting the Zen group. It may still be in existence. Monks from Europe mingling with the monks of this Shingon or Pure Land order from many countries. Next, please. And slippers and sandals that are on sale. Again, that is pretty standard type of footwear, even in the snow, as I discovered. Next, please. More shoes, and in this case, these are shoes of visitors to the shrine. They have placed their outside walking shoes there and gotten pairs of special, you are in a holy place temple, you wear things that we are taking care of. Next, please. Next, please. This, again, this Shingon temple atop Mount Koyasan. Here's a way of preparing yourself, for prayers, and we are doing so in this, chilly day, pouring and saying blessings. Next, please. Next, please. And you can see things that are designed on the right-hand side for kids. They're very important for remembrance, and this is a cemetery. Just notice how different it is from the graves that one can see in individual parishes in some places or in large cemeteries like those on Pine Ridge Road. Next, please. And here again, a remembrance in this cemetery. Again, just think how different that is. What a way of approaching life and its end. Next, please. Explaining to Jeanette some of the symbols and the reading the inscriptions there in this Shingon monastery. Next, please. The light, I thought, was just so special as it slanted in the late afternoon of March of 2000. Next, please. And here we have a group of women who have come to this monastery. Again, you can see by the staffs that they're carrying that they may need the assistance, but it's also a sign of being a pilgrim. Next, please. Well, sayonara, folks. That's it. Goodbye. Thank you very much for your attention, and thank you, Erie County, for your services. I hope you all have a lovely week, and thank you for tuning in.
Thank you so much.